Hello. Here it comes. Here it comes. The abomination. The abomination. Meow meow. Listen, Claire, Rod agrees with you. Rod thinks it's an abomination for a grown man to mew. Is it mewing? Meowing? This is it. No, mewing is like the where you try to make your jaw bigger or something. I don't know. Meowing. I got some time today. Wanted to play. Got some time today. Wanted to play. Watched Rigel stream yesterday. Listen to that, PBK. If you listen to this, I listened to Rigel stream before yours. Hierarchies. They shift. They shift. I like Rigel. I like what he's doing. I like his vibe. I like his stream. I like the way he runs his flotilla as the captain of the Cosmic Naval, where it's a riparian zone. I don't know what's going on with all of Rigel stuff. I don't have all his phrases down because his phrases are his own thing. But I was on Chris Howard's stream this morning. Got to talk to Claire a little bit. Our friend Ethan was here. This guy, this gentleman. With you won't know what that is unless you are probably bred in my age. Ethan knows though. Ethan's a little young. All right. Let's get to it. Let's talk about some things. Let's lay out a mosaic vision. Stan. Listen, Stan, I don't know who you are, but yeah, we're going to talk about the Commons. U.S. Commons was rooted in foundational principles, shared resources, and social structures, i.e. authentic Eurocentricity, which is part of the problem since plurality with non-European others. You know? That's perspective out there. Yeah, that's all part of the discussion. To what degree can you have plurality? Because Europe is a kind of plurality, right? And European descent people is a kind of plurality. It's just the plurality of Europe. And is that tied in mere ethnic heritage? Is it tied in mere ethnic? What are the ties between ethnic and culture? Can you completely divorce them? I don't know. Probably not. But this is we're all going to get into. Hola, hive mind. Hola. I just watched, which I really like. What's the guy's name? Marcelo. What is the guy's name? Hernandez. Yeah, Hernandez. Marcelo Hernandez. But he's got a Netflix special, and it is excellent. But he does some impersonations because he's second generation, I believe born in the US in Miami. Hilarious special. And a lot of really interesting little bits on parenting. But he does impressions of, he's got a little bit of an accent, but not much, because he's born in America, but Miami, so it's a lot of Spanish. But then he'll give impressions of white folks, and he's just like, hola, that's what I think of when I just, hola. All right. What is the ground for the Commons? So this came up. I don't think I'm putting anyone on blast. So PBK, Sam Tiedemann, Rod, and I were in this group chat, and we were talking about the Commons, and this is something that I've been thinking a lot about. What is the common ground for people of difference to meet? Because even in like riparian zone, you got it. Riptide. I feel like there's some great songs about riptides. Noah Gunderson has one. Great song about a riptide. But like this, there is some form of, it makes me think of Paul Allen's idea of universal basic institutions, and what Daniel O.G. Rose said is that there's these different mediums through which we can come together, where we limit and or don't focus on, put to the side part of our identities in order to meet with the other. I mean, you have to do that to communicate and to be with the other at all. I think in any sort of um, your own body does that, you know. I have a we probably don't even have it anymore. It was a really old worldly news, but it's probably gone because Chad deleted his channel about a it was so brilliant too. I mean, it was like an edit. I feel like those first couple worldly newses were just, and I mean, David Busatil and Neil Daedalus are still like kind of holding all that down with help from others. I think I don't know who else is still doing it, but Chad had one where he was riffing on a super old live stream of mine. I mean, I don't even know from how long ago. I don't remember when I started my channel, but I was talking about Eucharistic knowing, one of my Lukeisms, which is, and I was using the illustration of digestion being that like part of what happens in your own body, the giving and receiving, the gift nature of your own body in digestion is that when you eat an apple, you masticate it. Isn't that mastication? And you chew it up, it forms a bolus. These are all scientific terms, which means I really know what I'm talking about. Because if I use scientific language, I have understanding. If I use a label with a scientific word, that means I really have understanding, right? False. But then, hey baby, I made a little omelet-y thing that's in the oven if you want it, okay? But I'm live streaming right now. Good morning. Here, just wait. I'm gonna pause, hug my daughter, and you can't. Okay, I'm back. Sorry. Every once in a while, I make food that it's a little questionable. Sometimes my daughter's just like, "All you make is eggs, and I don't want to eat eggs all the time." So I'm a big like protein, real food person, and we're not like a cereal family. Believe it or not, if you know anything about me, we're not like eating hyper processed garbage cereal food. It's just mainly sugar and processed garbage. So I like eggs. I like meat. I like vegetables. Throw some spinach in there. Make an omelet. Onions, butter. Every once in a while, you know, we can make some pancakes. We can do. I made banana bread the other day. Good job. Good job, Papa. Oh, so good. But yeah, so sometimes I would make like non-flour based pancakes, and then my kids would just be like, "Are these flour pancakes? If these aren't flour pancakes, get them out of my face." Because that's how they talk. Um, I don't know what we're talking about. Parlato's always coming after me. Parlato used to love me. I used to be like one of his top two. He told me effusive things like this, but he's fickle. Parlato's a fickle person. He's like you and Jed and someone else. He's like, you guys are my boys, my TLC boys. And now he got in with like, what is it? What's your guys' terms? The optics, whatever, Thomist. You still love, oh, you still love me, or you love Jed. You got into your Thomas crew with just like your hyper specific Catholic stuff, and now you want to come at me. Now you've fallen in love out of me. You semiotics, you fickle little. It's fine. It's all right. Steep slope here. People are probably already annoyed. All right. Yeah. This isn't wife beater. This is the Tank Top Club. This is the TLC Tank Bros. You know what I'm talking about? I bet he did. I bet he abandoned your Estuary group. Probably to go talk. He probably went to like a monastery to talk with a bunch of nuns and monks about semiotics. Yeah, well, whatever. I mean, but like a lot of those guys are Thomist dudes. I know semiotics isn't just Catholic. I'm just KRJ. Whew. Here's my boy, Tank Boys. All right. Grounds. We're getting back to it. What is the ground for commonality? And I'll open this up earlier because I want to just play with people. I don't need more of my weird monologue. But this is one of the things that came up in the PVK Rod Sam talk. I don't know. I understand, and this gets into semantics, which is probably related to semiotics of like, what and information and meaning. So someone used the term neutral ground, that there needs to be a place of neutral ground. What does that mean exactly? And that also assumes that like there is a kind of ground that is neutral. Sometimes some people would use that in terms of like a safe space. But like I like Hezi, my boy Hezi, the cheese. I like his term of a brave space. It's related to kind of a Nassim Taleb idea of anti-fragility, is because safetyism is a problem. There is no such thing as a truly safe space. I mean, what does that even mean? Safe has some sort of limits on it. Like water is safe until you're drowning. Air is safe until you get like asphyxiated. There isn't like is it makes me think of the Radiohead song. What is the fitter? What are the lyrics? Radiohead, fitter, happier. Let's look at it. I love this song. And I mean, I also love Radiohead. You know, don't at me. Fitter, happier, more productive, comfortable, not drinking too much, regular exercise at the gym 3 days a week, getting on better with your associate employee contemporaries, at ease, eating well, no more microwave dinners and saturated fats, a patient, better driver, a safer car, baby smiling in back seat, sleeping well, no bad dreams, no paranoia, careful to all animals, never washing spiders down the plug hole. They're British. Keep in contact with old friends, enjoy a drink now and then. Will frequently check credit at Morrow Bank, hole in the wall. Favors for favors, fond, but not in love. Charity, standing orders, on Sundays, Ring Road Supermarket. No killing moths or putting boiling water on the ants. Car wash, also on Sundays. No longer afraid of the dark or midday shadows. Nothing so ridiculously teenage and desperate. Nothing so childish. At a better pace, slower and more calculated, no chance of escape, now self-employed, concerned but powerless, an empowered but uninformed member of society, pragmatism, not idealism, will not cry in public, less chance of illness. Tires that grip in the wet, shot of baby strapped in back seat, a good memory, still cries at a good film, still kisses with saliva, no longer empty and frantic, like a cat tied to a stick that's driven into frozen winter shit. The ability to laugh at weakness, calm, fitter, healthier, and more productive. A pig in a cage on antibiotics. Californication! The American Dream. That's how the song goes, OG Mike. That's me singing the song. That's me doing a cover of Fitter Happier. I mean, it's all relative, right? Saturated fats. It's just like it's whatever the propaganda, the media machine of the day is telling you. Like what is going to make you whole and complete, not lacking in anything. Peter Rollins says nothing. St. James says wisdom. Wisdom, nothing. Wisdom, nothing. Maybe the wisdom is nothing. Hey, 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 hey. Dance break. This is what I want to say, and then I'll open it up. I don't know, and I was talking to a local buddy yesterday about this. I don't. This is the problem with ideals and idealism, and even a telos to shoot for. I don't know if the kind of pluralism that I want and I'm after, and that I'm envisioning, and that good word, that I want is possible right now. And that kind of makes sense because we are always becoming. I mean, somewhat I'm envisioning the eschaton, the new heavens, the new earth. Heaven, talking about heaven. And heaven is a place on earth, you know? Uh, but the fitter, happier thing is that we paved paradise and put up a parking lot, right? And called our convenience and comfort and safety happiness. And somewhat the false post World War II consensus safetyism that we've been living in America since World War II, despite some of the Cold War hiccups. The hens are coming home to roost. We realize that all the violence we've outsourced all over the world through our geopolitics and capitalism is like coming back at you. So what is the basis for the common ground and meeting with the other? What is the ground of that? What actually is it? I really like the term hospitality. Here's a question. Is it explicitly religious? I would assert that it is, because to me, religion is the thing that binds anything together. That's like a tautological viewpoint of mine. The ligaments, religio, are the things that hold my physical body together. My ligaments are the religion of my physical body. I think everybody, corporate bodies, states, communities, nations, neighborhoods, homes, have a religion. The religion of my home is 2x4s and studs and nails and glue. Like, that's the internal structure that holds the house together. And you don't see it. Like, look around. I mean, you see curtains and drywall. Wash. I distract myself. The confessions, this is religio credo, the confessions and the creeds how we talk about that are the words that we use to describe those things. And in corporate cultural bodies, that's all you have, because these are the religion that holds like a nation together, for example, or a family or whatever. It can never be, it's never fully encapsulated by the naming of it. Because it's an infinitely complex thing. So in America, I want to get to this because I put the link in here to Rigel's Friday live stream, and I just finished it up. It was great, beautiful. There were a couple songs that were sung. I didn't see the very beginning of it. I think I just jumped into Sam. This guy was there. He sang a song. Go check out Sam singing a song on Rigel's stream. But Shari said something in there that I loved. She was like, maybe the common ground for the commons and coming together is creativity. Because I would almost assert that in America, we have asserted, and and I don't know what I think about this. I want to talk about this, that free speech is the common ground. I think a lot of people would say free speech is the common ground. Rogan would say that. Bill Maher would say that. A lot of American people would say that. I don't know if the founding fathers would say that. We got into this on Chris Howard's stream a little bit this morning. Like, Claire was trying to talk about objective truth, which I think both Jan God, who's in here, and her were somewhat in agreement. And I would agree with that too, that whatever is true is not, whatever is universally true, although people are going to talk about that in much different ways because of their context, is something that's not even debatable. It's just what we all know, even though we don't know how to talk about it properly. It's like what the founding fathers, could we hold these truths to be self-evident? But like, even that all men are created equal. I mean, and I guess you could argue what they are saying by that is like, you could debate that. I suppose you could debate it, but they're just asserting that it's axiomatically true. Like, these, it's self-evident, and if you can't see it and you want to debate it, that's on you. So I don't know that free speech is the best grounding, and I don't know how to tie that to creativity. They're probably related in some way that I can't articulate and name yet, that I haven't seen, and maybe this will come out in the discussion. But I think free speech also leads to an excess of protest or not being able to find solutions outside of protest. Because that's what really struck me, I suppose, that that I like the idea of creativity being a basis of common ground for people who are for the true other and different people to meet as a means of further up and further in, moving to a kind of beautiful plurality. Um, I don't know that free speech does it, and it's an interesting corner navel gazing conversation because, like, I think that's what a lot of people are intuiting or feeling when they say we can't just sit around and talk about things forever. We have to make things. We have to create things. We have to have conferences. We got to do Estuary. We got to create spaces, and at least Estuary is that. Estuary is a creation of a space where people come together of diverse perspectives to talk about things. Um, and I guess what I would say, God is universally true, yes, but within a monarchical Trinitarian framework, God, the transcendent God, God the Father, is universally true, and in Him we live, move, and have our being. Um, but in that, it's kind of like everything and nothing at the same time. God is like beyond all categories and in all categories, and so like technically non-do, and so He's true, but also in a sense He's untrue. The Bible talks this way. Light and dark, and order and chaos. I am your Lord your God. I create evil, chaos, like that word in Hebrew. So it's or like even Job or whatever. Like it's even in Islam, I know jinns and spiritual entities that, like, whether they're good or bad, it's a lot more fluid. So like um I agree with you on one hand, but then one of my favorite quotes, the Father Stephen Freeman thing, is like, we never know anything in general, transcendent. We only ever know anything in particular, because anytime we always need a particularity to point to the transcendent. And this came up in PBK's live stream and in my previous live stream about the Good Samaritan and Dostoevsky. Dostoevsky's great philanthropist who loved mankind. It is possible to love mankind in general, or to think that you do, or to assert that you do, and hate all men. And that's the problem with the spirit of free speech and protest, I think, is like that bastardization is possible. But in a common ground of creativity, I don't like when you're actually creating things versus just protesting things or being or rebel, being a rebel. Like Peugeot says, you can't build a culture on rebellion, because it's always parasitic. You're rebelling against something. But if you're creating something, you can build culture on creation. All right, that's all I have to say, really, I think, because I mainly just want to come on here and hang out, and I am going to stop this anywhere from like an hour and an hour 15. So OG Mike, I will go look at your other comment. First, though, I have to pin this. Pickety pin it. Again, listen, before I let anybody in here, the rules of engagement are steel manning. Be quiet, Luke. No name calling, steel man ideas. I often reference that Tim Keller video of be able to articulate the position you're critiquing in such a way that not only would the person and the idea that you're critiquing, the idea that you're critiquing, that not only would they own it, they would say, that's better than I could say it. Until then, you're boxing phantoms. You're fighting ghosts. You're dealing with your own ego. If you really want to have good faith discussions, learn how to steel man. And even better, learn how to straw man. Assume the best in the other person. Think of their criticism to you as a gift for you to improve your own thinking, and for both of you through dialogos to come together to higher levels of understanding, comprehension. And you're also learning soft skills of relationality, conversational hospitality. And don't interrupt if you're going to come on here. Try to listen as much as you talk. All that stuff. All that stuff. All right, I'm going to go. Dude, go get coffee and then come back. Let's rock and roll. Steelman and Starman. Okay, you said I need to go check out your other comment. I'm going to go up and do that for my comment on defining the ineffable. God is universally true. Is it above the universally true thing? I draw a distinction between faith and religion. I don't do religion in the organized religion sense. Yeah, well, everyone's doing religion. Whether or not organized religion is true religion, because it can and cannot be, right? Christ and Antichrist. Organized religion could be true religion. It can also be false religion. So like, it can be industrial religion. OG, is your comment after or before this? I don't see it, dude. Stan, I don't know you, but you apparently are checking out Rigel's stream, or do I know you? And this is just a handle I don't recognize. Yeah, Steven, creativity is tightly bound to free speech. Yeah, I think so. I think I intuit that as well. That's kind of what I was saying when I was talking about that, but I don't know that I know how to speak about that well. We will see. I don't know that I'm still seeing your comment, yo. Yes, I don't know. You replied yes, but I don't know to what question that I said already. I do know you. I bring the Afro-Asiatic funk. I could probably figure that out if I thought about it enough. I don't see your other comment, OG. You got to just write it again. I don't see it. Also, we need to schedule up a time to have our conversation, because I mean that's been too long in the making. I need to get at a calendar and shoot you some dates. There are forces at work working towards solutions, just not necessarily the ones we might support or like. Yeah, absolutely. Powers and principalities, man. They're always doing that stuff. The 7 Noahide laws are supposed to be a universal minimum moral standard. I don't know those. I haven't dove into the 7 Noahide laws, but I could look that up. Maybe I will further up, try and get in your... Oh, here we go. Trying to get your mind around the ineffable is by definition fruitless. Yes. In the vernacular, truly mental masturbation. Yes, but this is the Christian assertion about the incarnation, right? This is the stuff Sam and I, and like, here you go. Do we disagree? Do we really disagree? Is it objective truth or not? The Trinitarian Christian assertion is that of at least Jesus Christ is fully God of fully God. So the ineffable transcendent is fully represented in the human being Jesus Christ, although they are not identical. And then I would say, I think that is my belief, that is fractally represented out into every human being. So when St. Paul says in 2 Corinthians, behold the glory of God in the face of Jesus Christ, that's what he's talking about. But then I think now, because Jesus isn't here and we can't, or he's not here physically, we can't know him in the same way that the disciples knew him. And even then, they didn't know him until he was revealed to them in the upper room after the resurrection. That's in the New Testament. That's a big point of Father John Bear, is all these people are like, I need proof from God. I need God to tell me. I need him to write it on the sky. If I saw Jesus in the flesh, then I would believe. No, you wouldn't, because even the disciples didn't. He was with them the whole time. They were the focused 12. And then he died, and they were just like, and they were devastated and scared, sitting in the upper room. And then he appears to them at multiple times, shows up in the upper room. They still don't recognize him. And then Father Bear's point is, he opens the scriptures, teaching them everything concerning himself, and breaks bread. Their eyes are opened. They have revelation. They see him for who he is, and he disappears. That's what the New Testament says. So like, even the people that were there 2,000 years ago who physically saw Jesus didn't believe until it was revealed to them. Again, I'm not a Calvinist, PBK, but it's the same now. So like, but then I think Jesus now is gone like that. So our revelation to the truth of Jesus Christ is represented to us in the same way, in the breaking of the bread and the opening of the scriptures, which is why those things are sacraments. within at least the Orthodox Church, of which Father John Bear is one. So he would say that's how you get to know Jesus. How much does that, and to some degree it's hospitality, which is tied to food. This came up with my buddy yesterday too, that I was talking to, is like, I don't think you can really divorce that stuff from food, from eating, from table fellowship. All right. Ooh, look, we have Daniel. Daniel. Uh-oh, a regular troll with no stable name. Uh-oh. Why is everyone always effing with the ineffable? We just like it. We just want to taste. We're just so curious. I was going to look up the 7 Noahide laws because nobody's showing up. However, I did put this in the comments, Daniel, now that I see that you're here. That share screen. I just wanted to I love in my comments on YouTube making them accessible. Oh, I know what else I'll talk about if nobody else shows up. We'll maybe talk about the Noahide things, but I'm going to talk about the hell conversation too. Look at this. Is this confirmed for me? Is this Jan? But I think you said Jane. Maybe it is Jane, but that's a weird spelling of Jane. Jane Zwicky, the experience of meaning. But Daniel said in the Rigel stream that talk is like essential listening. So are you here? Are we correct? Did you leave? Tell me if that's correct. Anyhow, something worth checking out. I put the comment and the timestamp in the Rigel stream. This is what, now we're going to talk about this a little bit, and this is going to be a teaser. If other people come into play, so we're tabling the grounds for the comments because I've already talked about that. If people want to come in and talk about that, we can talk about that. Otherwise, I'm going to move on to this conversation, which I'm of two minds about. On one hand, I loved it.
I'm about to reveal a snoring fix.
Be quiet with your ad. Annoying, dumb ads. Okay. I'm gonna share that. Oh, I'm already sharing. My bad. This conversation. So what happened? Listen, get out your Luke bingo card. Matt Krotz of Scrollers Podcast fame may eventually make an actual Luke bingo card. I mean, he made it somewhere. I don't know what it is for like a Luke bingo thing. So my boy Sam Tiedemann and I want sometime it's gonna happen. Like either he's gonna do it with me or I'm gonna do it by myself, because I can't let like a hell conversation like this happen without talking about it. It's just too central to my story, to my witness, to what I've been through. It's such a very good particular illustration of a more transcendent, ineffable spiritual pattern that I care a lot about. A lot of it has to do with real conversations about things with which we disagree, and what you need to have in order for that to even happen. And I need to think about a way to do this without being so frustrated and negative about particular people who are participating in the conversation, because there are certain people in the conversation that are frustrating to me. They really bother me. For those who know, you know. And there are many reasons why this bothers me, and I need to talk about it in a way that honors my own rules. I want to steel man them. And some people are really hard for me to steel man. Real hard. So this conversation, I don't even know. I left 20 comments. I don't know. There's already 34,000 or 3,412 comments. And nice. Jan Zwicky. I've not looked into it. And like this. So here's, for example, thank you for being here, Stare Abyss. Yeah, Bible seems to say there's an eternal hell, but also there's a verse on him being able to destroy body in hell, i.e. annihilation. Yeah, and they get into some of this stuff in the conversation, but my experience with this topic is that most people who engage in this topic are so either late to the game or ignorant or not well versed in the nuance of the conversation that for me it's really for me, even though I bring it up all the time, it's very often very hard for me to have the conversation with people because I'm just like, I've talked about this so much that it's that like very often I'm just having the same conversation over and over and over. And I would like to get to the parts, but that's how it works with any. Okay, I'm going to remove this for a second. That's how it works with any subject, right? Like if you are, I'm not going to call myself an expert on hell, but compared to like a lay pew person who's never like looked into the subject of the nuance and the history and the differences of opinion on hell and compared New Testament understandings of hell to Old Testament understandings of hell and how New Testament understandings evolved out of Old Testament understandings, what were some of the Jewish perspectives on hell, all the different words that are translated hell in the Bible, what's going on there, philosophical assumptions about time, what does eternal mean in the New Testament, which is aeons of the aeons, which is ages of ages. What does that mean? Sometimes it's translated a certain way, sometimes it's translated a different way. Punishment is an English translation of a word in the New Testament, which is a lot of times it's it's a deverbal noun. So like punishment is what's called a deverbal noun. And so it's where you take a regular verb like punish, to punish, you add ment to it, and so it becomes then a noun. So it's a verb that becomes a noun. So punishment. I often use this illustration, which I learned from Rethinking Hell, who are evangelical conditionalists, who are annihilationists, because I was an annihilationist for a number of years. Like Chris Day, I saw a Chris Day interview. He's in this conversation. And there's many deverbal nouns, but like one of them is translation. And one of the ways that you can show is deverbal nouns are temporally ambiguous, meaning the time frame about deverbal nouns is contextually dependent. Specifically the time limits of deverbal nouns. So like translation, you could say something like the translation lasted 2 weeks. Okay, what does that mean? Again, you have information. What does the information mean? You have a sentence. The translation lasted 2 weeks. You could also say something like the translation lasted 2,000 years. Okay, I think those are different kinds of translations. Maybe, maybe not. How do you know? In one case, you could say the translation lasted 2 weeks, by which you mean the process of translating. So it's a noun that's referring to the process of translating. Okay, that's one form of translation. You could also say, so that's limited, it's temporally limited, or you could also say the translation lasted 2,000 years, or the translation is still extant, it's still in existence. By that, you mean the physical words of a translation, like the New King James Bible. The New King James Bible is a translation that has lasted whatever since it was translated. Those are different things. Translation is temporally ambiguous. So when the New Testament says something like punishment, you have to understand what that means. Does it mean the act of punishing, like the act of translating? Or is it talking about capital punishment, like what the annihilationists say? These are all things that most people have never thought about for a second. And this is like, Ian's going to be here. When we can talk about whatever Ian wants. But this is one of the big beefs for me, and we can go. I left about 20 comments in this. I mean, there's so many. Like I don't even know. There's a lot of comments in here. And this is part of my thing. Before I add Ian to the stage, Insight Incorporated, check it out. This is why I'm of two minds of the topic. I said, thank you all for being willing to publicly engage this topic. I would love to see the spirit engaged to a lot of different other areas of intellectual engagement. Or that's a stupid way to say that. I would love to see the same spirit engaged, the same spirit applied to a lot of other areas of intellectual engagement. I should just change that, but whatever. People get the idea. People read that and they're just like, you're a moron. And then again, steep slope. Am I a moron? Maybe. So on that side of it, and I made many other comments about specifically, I don't know, a number of different things in my time-stamped way because I like to make comments more useful to the discussion. I'm happy that they're talking about it. There's a cynical, skeptical. Is it cynical or skeptical? There's a certain part of me that is hesitant to wonder why certain people are willing to talk about it now. I think Kirk Cameron's talking about it because he converted to annihilationism and he's convicted about it, and so he wants to open up dialogue. And I think he has a big enough platform and enough fame where there are other people who feel the need to start talking about it now because they want to get ahead of the curve. They're like, uh-oh, this is going to get too much fuel, too much steam. So I don't want to feel like I don't understand it and know about it. So I need to get ahead. I need to get ahead of it. And to me, that's like, I don't like that impulse. I'm like, and so that's judgy of me. That is judgy of me. To me, it's just like, why haven't you known about this previously? Like, why haven't you looked into this? There's a lot of nuance about the doctrine of hell. And one of my biggest pet peeves is people are very dogmatically confident about things they know little to nothing about. Most Christians know little to nothing about the doctrine of hell. Almost nothing. And they come at me real hard with a lot of conviction. And I'm just like, that's unbelievable to me that you are so convicted about stuff that you know very little about. Okay. Ian and Claire, hello. Hello.
Hello.
Hello. Good morning.
Morning.
I wanted to go. I don't know. Can I talk now? Is it
Yeah,
okay?
do whatever you want. You can come in. I
um,
can say that. Talk about what you
I
want.
I wanted to go back to what you were saying in your monologue about religion
Yeah.
because I really appreciate the connection with ligament. There's great passages in Colossians about uh, love being the ligament of the Christian community, and what I was thinking is you mentioned the religion of your house being like the wood and the nails and screws and glue that
Yeah.
like hold the building together. And I was thinking like maybe a little bit more like Jordan Peterson or something, but it's actually the desire to survive, like your house is sort of uh an extension of that. Like if
Yeah.
because some people's houses are falling apart and they don't care. Some people have, like their video games or Facebook or whatever it is that like their succubus that just like occupies them and the siding's falling off and the chimney isn't cleaned and all these things. So like the condition of your house or the quality of your house is also determined by that binding spirit that dictates like on a Saturday you're working on the patio or you're going to shovel the driveway because you've got places to go. So anyway, I was just thinking about that because I think that when we talk, even just to use your annihilationism conversation, I haven't watched that video yet, but it's interesting to me just as a big Eva phenomenon. It's like
Mhm.
fascinating to see these people like talking about things in a real way. That shift is something that I've been longing for. They're like at least
Yes.
directionally moving where I would like them to go. And
Right.
and yet, like when you look up Kirk Cameron hell debate, uh, the top 25 videos are just every big name from the 90s that you could imagine that has a YouTube channel. And they're like, they have a serious grumpy face on the thumbnail. And so it's like, it's interesting to me because I think what holds those 90s and prior together, people together, is the like facts, the facts of Christianity. Sean McDowell's one of the people that's got the scowl on the thumbnail, and him and his dad are good at facts, but are they good at like?
But are they?
Well, they're good at like claiming facts and
Yeah.
writing them down and like marketing. That what's marketable to them is that. So anyway, I just feel like there's a shift in that spiritual ligament that holds these things together and draws us towards better quality of like interaction. You know what I'm saying? Like the
Right.
thing that makes your house nice is your wife telling you what to do, or you, if you are, anal about doing the chores. Like those things, those things are sort of, they're not literally the structure. So that's all I was thinking, is that the structure itself, the boards and the glue and the nails, those things would be more like the places like you mentioned, Estuary or TLC, the places where you have those conversations, the institutions. But like I've been more concerned recently with the spirit of the institutions or something like that. Like what are these things for, and where are we heading with them?
Yeah.
You know what I mean?
Well, and I think we're in a, just to comment on that before Claire jumps in too. I think that we, like even the responses, all the scowl faces responses that you're talking about, to me, those are people who are insistent on using old wineskins for new wine. And it's part of it is like the Gutenberg 2.0 thing in the internet age is like, that's part of
Hmm.
why I think people are even addressing it, is because they realize, oh, all this stuff is on YouTube and podcasts and people are talking about this stuff. And because of social media, people are going to be talking about annihilationism, especially when somebody big like Kirk Cameron talks about it. And so they're like, oh, again, like we can't not address it now. Now we have to address it because lay people and other people are going to be exposed to it. And either out of like a shepherding, protecting, whatever, which is what a lot of people assert, oh, we have to protect the people that follow me or my flock or my church or whatever from false doctrine, which can be a good thing. It can also be like we need to keep butts in the pew, and it's hard to get someone to see something when their salary depends upon them not seeing it, which is a lot of my criticism of Christian leaders, is that I think you think that you're wanting to talk about things to defend truth. I think a lot more of it has to do with much more superficial levels of ego and self-protection.
That's
And
why I stopped trying to be a Christian leader. Like I want to be somebody that's able to have a conversation, and I don't even know if I necessarily have that pastoral quality where I'm like concerned about someone else's safety when we're talking about ideas. Like they can think what they want is sort of the way that I interact with that. But anyway, yeah, just
yeah,
my personal anecdote for that.
it's very related to all this. So Claire, I want to get to you. I'm glad Adam is here too, because even what Sartori said and PVK's pitch and different things, like I love what Sartori was talking about. He's just why, why do we say some Catholics are okay or this group is okay or whatever, and then like when it comes to Mormons, it's just like a hard no. And I think a lot of that also is connected to this. Like we haven't been engaging about these topics and where the difference really is, and it's due to like a lower level of egoic identity and ignorance and fear, rather than like I want to talk about it, but I'm also one of these weird TLC people. All right, Claire.
Shall we deal with the title of the stream?
Sure, we can
And
talk about that. Yeah, I mean, I said like, because I brought up the hell thing because nobody was coming in, and I said we could talk about the title and my monologue, or we can talk about hell, or the conversation is going to be a little fluid, but you can if you want. Yeah.
but since you were talking about annihilationism, I mean, I was looking it up on Wikipedia. What would you say it really means? I mean,
It means the wages of sin is death.
yes, we already know that.
Yes,
We know
but
we're going to die.
here, will you give me a sec just to lay out what it is? So like the difference between, there's three classic views on the doctrine of hell. Eternal conscious torment, which is called traditionalism. It's also called traditionalism, but I would say it's mainly traditionalism in the West, post-Augustine. There's annihilationism or conditional immortality, and then there's universal reconciliation. Those are the three views on hell that people have had of various degrees and in different traditions throughout Christian history. Eternal conscious torment would read death in the New Testament like the wages of sin is death. What they say death is the death of your body, but the continuance of your soul and your conscious awareness to forever, for an infinite duration of time, being tormented forever.
Yes,
That's
eternal damnation or eternal bliss.
But it's conscious eternal torment. An annihilationist would say the wages of sin is death, is that, and they vary in the degrees of like how quick that is, but eventually like you cease to be. You are not eternally tormented forever. You cease being. You no longer exist.
How would they know? It's purely speculative, isn't it? I mean, the whole point of the afterlife is to encourage us to do the right thing. So if you've been a bad boy, expect eternal damnation. If you've been a good boy, expect eternal bliss.
But now you're zooming out.
Pardon?
out. I'm just telling the difference between eternal conscious torment and annihilationism, which is what you initially asked.
Well, it seems to me that it's some people wanting to abolish the concept of hell.
No, this is what I mean. This is the kind of ignorance that I'm talking about, though, Claire. They affirm hell. Hell is where you go to receive capital punishment, the cessation. Your punishment is your death, in the same way that someone who has capital punishment, the punishment is that they die. And then the annihilationists would just say your body and your soul is destroyed in hell. And they have
that's the atheist view, isn't it? Death is the end. We don't need to, fear eternal damnation if we're being bad boys and girls.
No, it's different. It's different. So I would say there's a spectrum. Within annihilationism, there are probably some annihilationists who would say that when your body physically dies, so does your soul, and you cease to exist.
That would be the atheist view.
Correct, Claire. Correct. But then there would also
be... why are Christians contemplating this possibility?
Claire,
to take the fear of hell away?
This is my problem, Claire. Do you want me to explain some of this stuff to you? Because you're always saying...
I'm just asking you. I mean, why would Christians want to adopt the atheist view of
I hadn't even
life
finished.
and death?
Okay, within annihilationism, I told you there's a spectrum. I gave you one end of the spectrum. And then you started talking about how that's equated to atheists and why they would want to do that. I hadn't even told you, like, it's not a monolith. There are annihilationists also who believe that you are punished for a duration of time, same as capital punishment.
How would they know?
A lot of, they wouldn't, how do we know any of this stuff?
Speculating and wasting our time and causing confusion and making Christians atheists, basically. I mean, if you don't believe in the afterlife, well, then don't even bother saying you believe in God.
So Claire, you just want to assert things like it's obvious, and there's no nuance to the conversation. Obvious. Okay, what is hell?
It's a very unpleasant place that you go to and suffer eternal torment if you've been a bad person.
Does eternal mean an infinite duration of time?
Yeah.
So you are a traditionalist. You believe in eternal conscious torment.
Well, not necessarily. Okay, I'm agnostic, but if you have these concepts, that they were created in order to put the fear of God into people so that they obey the rules, right? I mean, that's the whole purpose.
I think that's part of it. Yeah.
Yeah, and if atheists or pseudo intellectuals say, oh, it doesn't really mean hell, it isn't that unpleasant. Oh, we'll see, but most of our friends there. Don't worry about it. Carry on sinning.
But I don't think
there's an agenda to it, isn't there? When people say that.
Potentially, but I don't think any of the people in that debate, they explicitly say that in the annihilation debate that I'm talking about, even though they have nuanced perspectives. I think it's two traditionalists and two annihilationists, and they all affirm what you just said. I, as a Christian universalist, would affirm what you said. Hell's bad. It's not great. You don't want to go there. It's not a good thing. You're not going to like it.
Well, this was a debate during the time of the Sadducees, who didn't believe in an afterlife.
Sure.
So, and they're extinct. So I think we can extract a moral lesson from not believing in an afterlife, because the whole point of believing in heaven and hell is to assist us in believing that good will be rewarded and evil punished in this life or the next. And if we don't believe in that, then we won't do the right thing.
Correct.
So the people putting these ideas in our head, like, oh, well, maybe hell isn't that bad, we'll see our friends there, are kind of making us think like atheists and not stand up for any principle.
Okay, Claire, I want to get on to Adam for a second, but what I would just say, you're not steel manning. Not myself nor anyone in the talk that I talked about are the things that you're criticizing. You're criticizing, like, the only person that I mentioned who you could even possibly be genuinely criticizing in an accurate way would be the one spectrum of the annihilationist who is equivalent to, like, the physicalist atheist that thinks the punishment is your soul dies identically when your body dies, and that's it. That's the end. That's the only person you could be legitimately criticizing, which is probably like 0.01 of who I'm talking about. So, like, when you do that, I don't know what you're doing. Like, why are you talking about 0.10%? Okay.
Because, okay, you don't want the answer, fine.
Well, no, you've already talked a lot. I want to let Adam talk, and I've already said you're not steel manning, which is frustrating. Okay, Adam.
Well, good morning.
Hey.
I just wanted to say hi, really, but I'll give you support on the hell issue, even from the heretical part of Christianity.
I don't know. I've heard your position on this, so yeah, I'd like to hear it.
Well, my position is, I think, pretty logical. I don't think we divide people into two camps in life. So if we don't do that with one another, we wouldn't. If you have kids, as you do, you don't divide your kids into heaven or hell. You realize there's gradations, and they're doing good things sometimes and bad things sometimes, and there's nuance. We all understand that there's nuance. There's degrees of culpability. There's ignorance. There's people that have never heard of Jesus. Of course, the vast majority of humanity has never heard of Jesus to begin with. So I can't, for me, I can't see Jesus depicting a loving God or being the sign of love, or as Vervaeke would say, the sage of love, yet condone or consign most people to hell who have never even heard of him. So that doesn't seem to me to really jive with somebody who actually loves children, or has children. So for me, it makes more sense that you would judge people based on, all the variables like a perfect loving parent would, except for God would be perfectly knowing. And I also don't think it's logical that you can judge people based on insufficient knowledge. So if most of us are looking through a glass darkly, as Paul would say, even us that believe in Jesus, we have different interpretations of who Jesus is. And so I don't necessarily believe that even the end of this life, and I think this would be commiserate probably with my LDS background, that this is the end point. That this is probably somewhat in line with the Orthodox view of theosis. I'm not sure where they cut the line, but often, but that it would be more of an eternal process, and that this would be just a beginning phase, or not even a beginning phase in my background, but right. A sort of phase in existence, a learning process. A lot of people talk about it being a school, the earthly school and that kind of thing. So for me, it's just, if you have kids, I have 4 kids. There's no way I would say I'm going to teach half my kids something and then hold the other ones responsible for me not teaching them. Let's say when I was 20 and I didn't understand certain things about life, and then I teach my younger kids something I now learn, would I now hold my younger kids responsible and punish them for not knowing something I never taught them?
Right.
These seem to me just basic sense things that we apply in normal life. And so why would those things suddenly become different. So, and it really comes down to me to just thinking about love. And if Jesus uses love as his central premise and really a loving father, I think you can literally take that, well, quite literally. Think of the ultimate loving father who knows us perfectly and wants us to become like him. Then clearly, that would not be something where he would only be partially loving. I can't myself get my mind around eternal punishment. I like thinking of God as endless and eternal, and whatever God's punishment would be simply his name is endless and eternal, and whatever he decides to do is going to be the righteous judgment.
Right.
And I'm not I'm not here to say either that there isn't just like that there is no that we all just go to some heavenly bliss. I definitely don't think that's makes sense either. That if there's if I'm going to maintain that there's a time for people to learn, let's say people that have never learned about Jesus, then there has to be some sort of, I don't know, I guess to use a Catholic term would be purgatory,
Right.
and some sort of transitionary phase where, yeah, maybe there would be some learning or hardship, or becoming brutally facing your own things that you didn't face in your life. That could obviously be portrayed as hell, and coming to terms with that and being open with that. Because I like the way you put it, that we'll be known as we will know as we are known. So to really know yourself may be the greatest punishment you can face, especially when it comes to things like things you could have done, but you decided not to do. So obviously facing things that you did do as well, and how you fall short in so many ways.
Right. So would you, I was going to pull up here just to show people, for example, just, because this is another thing about, when people say eternal, like there's so much, and I'll often say this as a shorthand. Most people base their understanding of hell based off of like Far Side comics. And like the idea of traditionalism, eternal conscious torment, is so deeply embedded unconsciously. It's like baked into the Western Christian consciousness that it's really hard for them to get out of it. It's like that David Foster Wallace speech of like the fish swimming by this old fish, and and the old fish is just like, how's the water? And the young fish are like, what's water? That's like the doctrine of hell. You're swimming in it so much that it is really, really hard to see out of it. It takes a lot of work to even get to the place where you're even beginning to have a conversation, in my opinion. Because like even eternal. So like this is something I started having this conversation with my mother-in-law at one point, where like I was getting into, she was talking about translation, the Bible and the words. And I'm like, well, I mean, like the New Testament isn't written in English. like it's not, like the New Testament was written in Koinonia Greek, which isn't even current modern day Greek. It's like an ancient form of Greek. So like eternal, the primary word for eternal in the New Testament, this is ages of ages, or I don't know how to pronounce it in Greek. Sorry, I need like which often refers to an age-abiding, everlasting, or perpetual duration, derived from aeon, age aeon. It is described the nature of God, life in heaven, or in some contexts, the duration of divine judgment. So like eternal it's like aeon of aeon, aeon. It's like two aeons together. So definition and usage, it's used as an adjective or a noun without beginning or end, or perpetual. It appears nearly 200 times, usually referring to the future, though sometimes in the past. While often translated as eternal or everlasting, some scholars suggest it can mean age long or of the ages, age abiding. Eternal life, it refers not just to longevity life, but to quality. It has a qualitative term to it. It's just all of that to say is like when people read eternal, they automatically, like the fish knowing they're wet, they just think an unending quantitative duration of time. And my point is that that's not necessarily what the New Testament means. Like you're just, that's called eisegesis. You are imposing that on the text and assuming that's what it means, and you don't know that. That's the whole debate. So, but back to your thing, I'm curious. You would affirm hell, like you would affirm that hell exists, but you would think of it more as like a purgative thing.
Yeah, I mean, the LDS term would be like the spirit world or like spirit prison, or maybe you could call it paradise, something like that. That there's still a period before the final judgment, before um, it's gone. There are various terms. Since I'm in these various communities and read a lot of people outside my tradition, I like to use words that people maybe understand. And
Intermediate state.
yeah, it may not be perfectly the same, but
Yeah.
yeah, the life, it doesn't make sense for me. I'm not near perfect in any way, or near in the image in the image of Jesus, I would say, in the image of Christ, that I should be at death, and nobody is close to that. So if in the LDS conception, if we're to become, and this is pretty close to theosis, but there's some nuanced differences, but if we're to become like God, clearly none of us outside of Christ are like God, yeah, when we die. So if that insinuates, or it obviously hints at, that there has to be some sort of continued process of development toward being like Jesus. When I look and I read Jesus' parables or read his sayings, I see them more as sometimes speaking on different levels. Sometimes they're more speaking in stark terms. My profession, often you have to use very cut and dry, black and white ways of talking to people, because you have 5 minutes to talk to them, and you can't get into 3-hour discussion on the nuances of cholesterol or something like that.
Yeah.
Just to use one example, my background. So, and of course, the way Pajot puts it, that I like, and I'm from Canada, so I have a shared heritage a little bit with Jonathan. That these are kind of condensed versions of stories that really bring things starkly, but you do lose the nuance when you do that. It really hits you, and you can really get the lesson, but you also have to say, well, this parable is 4 verses long. Obviously, it can't capture everything.
Right.
It's 4 verses. All of life cannot.
What's that? Yeah. What's that? There's that verse in John, right, where it says, like, if everything were written about Christ, like, there'd be no end.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So, obviously all of creation it has no end, and there's no end of the experience of God. There's no end of his creations. Even if you were to get to the end, I like the phrase, his curtains would be outstretched still. So it even be beyond that. And so I think some of the things that we encounter in the Gospels are beautiful, in that they're simple and we can grasp them more clearly. But you do sacrifice that maybe some of these things were devoted towards certain levels of understanding, and then Jesus himself said, "There's certain things I'll tell you, the disciples, right? Here's the explanation of the wheat and the tares I'm giving to you, but I tell parables, so that people of different understandings can understand different levels."
Right. What do you think about this idea? I'll probably close in a little bit, but I want to pick your mind about this, and Ian, if he's still around. What do you think is the benefit of talking about these ideas? Because, like even Claire said, and I agree to some degree, these things can't be known objectively or absolutely. Like, what is the exact state of the afterlife, especially if it's true, and I think it is, that a lot of it is we only know through experience, and we see through a glass darkly. And so I think we can have experiences in this life, which I think spiritually can inform what the afterlife may look like, and I think there's some wisdom that could be discerned those ways. So then what is the benefit of talking about these kinds of things? Because I would assert that the benefit of talking about these things, and this isn't universal, it's for a particular kind of person, is the primary benefit about talking about ideas is not to get to the truth in an objective sense so that then you can live correctly. I think we're almost learning how to live correctly through the conversation, like showing conversational hospitality and learning how to have conversations with other people who disagree and how to do that well, how to steelman, how to treat other people how you want to be treated. We are exercising that muscle just in conversation. And I think that's part of my beef of even like the ice, for example, and why I said I like the hell conversation. And it's a particular example of a more general principle, is that when you aren't talking to people who actually disagree about stuff, who are intelligent, in good faith, steel manning them in the way that Tim Keller talks about, I don't even know that you've begun to really even know what you think or how to think. Like, I've learned so much about the Trinity through my conversations with Sam. And I don't know that I don't think I had a clue. Like, I was probably, and I still feel that way because there's so much to know. I feel very often about the Trinity before I talk to Sam, before I began talking to him, almost the way that I'm talking to people about the doctrine of hell. That, like, you don't even know your fish that are wet yet. You haven't even begun to have conversations about hell because you don't know enough yet. That's kind of how I was with the Trinity. But through engaging with the genuine other in love and hospitality, it, like, that act in and of itself, I don't know that it's gotten to me any closer to the capital T objective truth, but it's taught me a lot about Sam. It's taught me a lot about knowing as I am known. It's taught me a lot about myself. It's taught me how to be probably slower to speak, more charitable in what other people are saying. I think that's the benefit.
Well, I think the belief that you can just live in the moment and take life as it comes it's not possible. It's not rational. Everybody has to have a telos. You know, as Jordan Peterson will say, you don't even get up in the morning if you don't have a reason, right?
Yeah.
You stay in bed. Nobody operates in life without a reason. You don't go to work without a vision. Every corporation, every business has a vision. You know, seek ye first the kingdom of God and his right way. You know, right in the, Jordan Peterson has whole lectures on that very saying, right? So if you just think about your life rationally and how you operate your life, you really, if you don't have a vision or have something that's inspiring, you literally don't do anything. I've been in this place before. When I was more of an atheist, and had, after deconstruction, I sometimes get back in these phases where I'm struggling to contemplate or countenance God, then you tend to lack motivation. You tend to just want to watch Netflix videos or whatever your favorite thing is. So I think the power of thinking about the future is, in every aspect of life, health or any other aspect, in psychological space, this is called episodic future thinking. You really don't, for example, get any better health-wise if you're not thinking of a future version of yourself. From a religious context, obviously the context I have probably has the most powerful or more filled in version of the both premortal and postmortal life that any Christian or some would say non-Christian or Christian adjacent or religion really has developed. Now, I'm not necessarily here to say I know that's the truth, and I'm not here to be on this with you to say I know this is capital T truth. But I know there's great power in that vision. So because if you have a, well, like Claire said, if you think hell is eternal damnation, that is a powerful motivating force. Just like if a parent says, hey, you're going to have this major punishment looming on the horizon, people are motivated by fear.
Again, quick aside.
Yeah.
Annihilationists believe that hell is eternal punishment too. This is just a point I got to keep reiterating. It's what is eternal and what is the nature of punishment. That's the whole debate. If you don't understand that point, that annihilationists also affirm that, you haven't even begun to understand the debate. Sorry, keep going.
Yeah. And, you color how you operate in life. So from the LDS perspective, we believe we're, through the grace of God and through our cooperative efforts with God, we're trying to be, God's goal for us is to become like him. But we're just not freely given that. We have to cooperate in that effort. Just like I would to become a bodybuilder. I'm not just gifted being a bodybuilder. I have to follow certain strategies to make that happen.
Yeah.
And so then how does that play out in my life? Well, if I believe that I'm partly responsible for the future, well, you might be more of an active person. You might do more things because you realize that you're part of that process.
Mm-hmm.
You have an impact on it one way or the other. If you believe that you have no choice on it, you're assigned or just given one thing or another at the end of life, it's predetermined, well, that may also color what you do in this life. So in other words, the telos, or let's say from a health perspective, if you think nothing you do makes a difference in your health in 5 years, it doesn't matter what your choices are. Well, clearly you're going to have a different level of engagement than if you think that your choices do matter. And so your telos, or your vision for the future, whether it's capital T truth, nobody knows that they actually will be alive in 5 years, right? But if you can envision a future self, then on average, in a certain way, your actions today will be colored by that. So basically, I'm just getting to the point of, it does have a powerful impact how you see yourself and your future self, and your eternal self, your eternal potential, how God sees you, what God's plan for you is, can have a great impact on your life. And me personally, even though I spend a lot of time in Eastern religions, that's, to me, the lack of telos, in my view, is one of the pitfalls. I don't think you can operate life just in the present moment. I think you, like Jesus, you seek first the kingdom of God and his right ways and his righteousness, and then you live in the day, as Jordan Peterson so rightly puts it. So you have a frame for your day and you stay present in the day, but you do have that overall direction, that overall vision in your life. You need both. You need both in your life.
Yeah, that's good. All right, I want to welcome Ian. You could talk. I want to welcome 17 Degree Ron, and also I want to say I'm going to close at like 1:30 because I gotta do a few things before I have an appointment. So that's where we're at. Just FYI.
I'm going to try to be quick. I just was thinking about the way that I think this you said the Far Side comics conception of hell. I think that is extant in our culture from like the medieval artistic period, where they really like went into like, cave drawings and like, or drawings of hell as a cave with fire and demons with pitchforks and that type of thing. And I think that might just be a medieval institution, sort of like a mind virus. They're trying, like COVID, trying to engineer the virus to gain of function research. They're trying to give us something to think, to keep us in line, like Claire was saying. And I don't know what to do with that, because it's sort of like a piece of psychotechnology. Like, okay, yeah, do good stuff happens. Do bad stuff happens. That's like pretty.
Yeah.
You could figure that out in your life, without the whole cosmic eternality of the whole situation. So then, what I'm thinking is like when Christians stick with that, they're essentially trying to mechanistically uh, form the behaviors of the people that participate within the community. And I think what you were saying, Luke, resonates with me about having the conversation is actually shaping you to be more loving, which is what I would say. That's a difficult term to define, but like more like Christ, who is love. Um, and so your conversations with Sam are excellent. Your conversations with Claire are excellent because you're attempting to participate in a way that challenges you in the same way that um, well, every relationship challenges you, and what's the goal of every relationship? It's different, but largely to promote reciprocal interactions where you can, continue to iterate benefit to one another and good for one another. And I think that hell, for me, just to keep it brief, I think that I rejected and still reject so much of the like hell as leverage to convince somebody to
Yeah.
believe, because really I think you're just trying to
Yeah.
force words out of their mouth. And if you can give them something scary enough, then that'll work. And so, what's the point in talking about these things? It's not to like not scare people so that they don't stop sinning, right? We're not trying to come up with some other idea. It's like there are an indefinite amount of ideas that you could have reading the limited scriptures that we have to even pull our theories on this. Um, but when it comes to talking about them still, I think it's more about trying to draw out some sort of relational connection and fittedness to one another rather than just manipulate people into certain actions and behaviors that you think are better for yourself or for them. So that
Yeah,
that was my two
100%, dude.
cents.
What you said made me think of this, and we'll get to Ron, but like I learned this from John Piper. Like he used the illustration of a ticket, like a train ticket, and he said if salvation for you is just like a train ticket to heaven, to getting what you want or something, he's like then like he's like that doesn't make you love God. That's just transactional. And
Yeah,
he's just like fear of hell is not love of God. Like it's just
right.
you just don't want that. Which is not, maybe like Peterson talks about that, maybe not a bad place to start, but it definitely is not, it's not conformity to Christ, which is what I would say salvation is. So what up, 17-degree Ron?
What up, yo? Everyone, first off, Ian, I covet your house, at least from what I can see of it.
I'm at work. I work at a bed
Well,
and
but then
breakfast.
I want to live where you work because I like
Yeah,
that.
yeah.
And I pretty much agree with everything you guys are saying. And now here's the funny thing. I'm a hell guy. Oh,
Me too.
straight. Oh, really?
Yeah.
What? Oh, what? I didn't know that. I thought
Yeah.
you.
See, this is what I mean. Like universalists believe in hell, at least some of them. Most of them, I would say, Christian universalists.
Really?
But when
I-
you say you're a hell guy, do you mean you believe in like eternal conscious torment? Traditional hell?
I'd have to go yes, and then let me explain.
Yeah.
When I met God, like mine was experience first. Oh, by the way, that whole get out of hell free card salvation thing,
Yeah.
that's actually how the card was played on me first. And I didn't like it.
Mhm.
But I understood that. But it was not effective because it's like an arm bar. When once you break loose of that, you can, but anyhow, so I do the whole Jesus come into my heart thing, nothing happens. But I decided not to quit. And then about 2.5 months later into the game, his spirit decides to show up and say hi to me face to face. You can't see it, but it's all experiential. And
Yeah.
in that moment, what it was is I realized he's perfect, holy, and powerful, and loving.
Mhm.
So, and what I did realize is that the hell thing, because I experienced him, I knew how imperfect I was. And if you choose that imperfection, you're rejecting love, and you can reject love. That's hell. When but it's kind of funny, but after that, I don't have any hard answers because it's so like, who goes to hell, who doesn't, and how long and why, blah, blah. It gets a little sketchy. It's just that because I've met him, I'm like, I don't want to tangle with him at all. And I wouldn't want anyone else to, because it is a bet, like in Vegas, red or black, and you bet the wrong color. In the moment I met him, I don't want that, because you are, my opinion is, it seems like it's like, okay, you're off the island. But I like how the conversations have helped me, because I feel like it turns almost not into a Zen koan that's unanswerable, but it's just maybe unanswerable from our perspective. And I don't know if that's a cop-out.
Yeah. No, I mean, see, this is where like I sent it to a group chat this morning, and this will be my final word, and we'll go around and do final words. But, and this is to affirm Claire somewhat. Like, I would agree with you very broadly, 30,000 foot view. The point of hell in the Bible is to just be like, Peterson will talk about this. You need like a negative reality to run away from, and a positive reality to run toward. Adam was talking about that, like the positive reality we're moving toward. Vision, the people perish for lack of vision. That's, it says that in the Proverbs of the Psalms. But it also says, man plans his way, God directs his steps. So, so you need, as long as hell in whatever sense is be like, and I think this is how it functions for most people. It's like, I don't want that. But then that's not enough, right? Because like just not wanting that isn't love of God. And so that's one thing. Also, I think the discussion for me, just to reiterate, is not to it's not to convert people. It's not to colonize people. I think there are certain people who, because this is a fear of people, being a universalist or thinking you're a universalist or even being open to that idea wouldn't be helpful for you, because where people often go with that, well, then what I do doesn't matter. And I don't think that's true, but that's where people often go with it. So like, if that's where you go with it, then it's no good for you, but like the process of talking to people in a open way, where you're steel manning and thinking and learning how to engage and be conversationally hospitable, I almost just don't know how that can't be good for almost anyone, unless you're just so of such a mind that kind of stuff just throws you into such a tailspin that it inhibits you from living your life well, Daniel, you're backstage. If you want to come on and give a final word, I need to see a camera. Or can you not do a camera now? Okay, we got it. All right, I got it. All right, Daniel, can you give us a first and last word? You can turn off your camera if you're trying to save bandwidth, if you want, but
I think I'm okay, and I just saw that you said you're leaving, so I'm really sorry. I just finished up some work before having to run off. Great to see you, Ron. Good to see you. I hope it gets warmer. Adam, Ian. So it's snowing again here in Virginia. So the parking lot at the venue is solid ice, which is great for skating. Well, I don't want to keep you. I just think it's an important topic. I guess I'm thinking about what you were saying about the point of ideas. So, a few things. We'll take the topic of hell as an example, right? You have the argument, how can a just God have a finite action, have an infinite consequence? Wouldn't that be fundamentally evil? Then you have Wolf and Exclusion and Embrace going, well, the only way we stopped the endless violence in the Balkans was precisely a doctrine of hell. So people are like, well, I no longer have to kill those people for hurting my village, because in the end, there's divine judgment. And, what Wolf in that book is talking about is it's hard for middle class people to get the doctrine of hell. But if you're in a war that can't escape endless violence, then you go, actually hell can actually bring about peace, because then you get out of these Icelandic revenge. But then of course you have poor, Rob Bell, Love Wins, trying to make an argument that you could have hell that eventually leaves off and no one wants to talk to him anymore, even though it's based, kind of origin and different things. But then you also, as I understand what Claire was saying, on this idea, well, if you say there's no hell, then isn't that going to just ultimately like make theology just kind of like stakeless and basically atheism, or could lead to a lack of moral life, which I think is a very fair point. So for me, like, there's a few things. First, I do think Christians should not, I sometimes think about Christians talk about the doctrine of hell from a standpoint that they don't actually believe living like Jesus makes your life beautiful and wonderful. And there's actually a sort of envy of people who sin. And so you're actually saying, well, in the end, you're going to hell. Ha! Because they actually want to sin. There are lots of Christians that actually want to sin. They don't actually believe that moving beyond sin into sainthood actually creates a better life, that it makes more of a melody of life, that it creates beauty. I think this is also tied to a lack of beauty in our theology. So we don't understand how beauty actually attracts you into wanting to be like Jesus, as opposed to when you don't have beauty, you do the good because you ought to do the good, right? And so then that creates a power dynamic. Well, how do I convince you that you shouldn't do the evil? Well, because you go to hell forever, right? And that can also, that, I guess what I'm saying is that the conversation about hell can have a certain intensity that is problematic, that gets into power dynamics, because we don't have a robust doctrine of beauty, nor do, when people come into the church, they feel, you know, the sort of flow and feel that you can have on the TLC. Well, you want to be here, right? Well, man, if you want to be here, you're not thinking about all the sin you could be doing that you wish you were doing, that you're envious of people doing, because you're caught up in a community that's kind of captured in the music, right? So that's part of the issue. The other thing I just want to say on this question, and I know I'm making you late now, but on this idea of like the point of ideas. So for me, when you examine, like, I'll say some giant things that I won't be able to, defend here. I think basically there's 6 or 7 theologies of hell that, I'm going to use this language, internally consistent, not generally consistent, internally consistent. There's no way to say that they are necessarily false, right? So you have 5 or 6 and you put them all together and you end up with a birdie and donkey. And what I mean by that is a birdie and donkey is when you have 5 or 6 equally sized piles of grain. So you can't make a rational decision of what it could be. Not because they're all necessarily false, but because they're equally false or true given their own consistency. And you would have to be God to know, right? You know, you'd have to be God. Well, this is very important because you have the fine line here between saying, well, only God knows we shouldn't talk about hell, therefore you're not thinking about it, versus creating a birdie and donkey situation when you say, in the end, only God can know what the pile of grain is, but we have 5 scenarios here that seem probable. Why bother to do that, though? This is why I think this comes into thinking as self-defense. If you never think about the doctrine of hell and you're a Christian, I'm going to go on a limb and say you're going to end up with a doctrine of hell. You're just going to absorb one like secondhand smoke. And when you only have one doctrine of hell, it actually pulls you along. Your ideas live through you more than you live with your ideas. And one of the great points of thinking is to actually keep your life from being at the mercy of your ideas. But how can you stop your life from being at the mercy of your ideas if you only have one tract, one bowling alley gutter that's going to pull you along? And what ends up happening is, as you're getting pulled along and you're living your ideas more than you kind of having control on your ideas, then when you encounter the other, and I guess I'm leading to the common space topic that you're pointing to, when you encounter the other person that has another grain, you're just pulling along. You can't stop to like make space for them. You can't stop to go alongside them. And actually their idea of it is a threat to your directionality and you don't know what to do. And so conflict, leaving them behind, not meeting people as persons, et cetera, so forth, right? But when you actually go into ideas and are able to find 4 or 5 equally plausible scenarios. Now, I'm not saying infinite plausible scenarios. That's also the problem. We think that interpretation is either 1 or infinite, when it's more some random number like 8 or 12 or whatever. When you get 12, then you don't get pulled along by your ideas. And here's the key. In that birdie and donkey situation, personhood comes out. And personhood can only come out in these spaces where we are able to actually defend ourselves from our own ideas. And a way we can do that is knotting them in a birdie and donkey situation, which then if everyone in a conversation does that, we're able to consider all the piles, bring all the scenarios together and speak about them in a manner where we don't feel like we're in jeopardy of being pulled along by something that alienates us, or that we're on a certain track and we don't know how to intervene with the other person. So that's much more needs to be said on that. But one of the reasons why ideas matter is precisely so that personhood can come out and you're not just being pulled along by rationality, that you're actually able to have a certain mastery over it. And yes, that lecture by James Wigley is absolutely unbelievable. Her husband sees a vision. The experience of meaning is part of it. And I actually do think it is in that birdie and donkey situation that the probability of what she calls insight, Bergsonian intuition, is far higher. And that is a place where people meet, but I'll stop.
All right, thank you. Now Sartori's in here. Okay, here's the thing, guys. Like legitimately, I have to be in my car leaving in 13 minutes. So
Shoot.
brief.
I'll start a stream in a bit because I was supposed to.
Yeah. Oh man.
I have to run, take my daughter to art class, but
yeah. All right. Thank you.
Streams, okay.
Appreciate it. Thanks for hopping on, Adam, Ian.
It was a pleasure.
Listen, if any of you want to hear what Michael has to say, go to his stream because now you're unfrozen again. Quick, Michael, pitch.
Oh, yeah. I wanted to.
Oh my goodness, ridiculous.
I wanted to say because Adam. No.
I can hear you now. Again. Try again.
Okay.
One more time.
All right. Well, Adam left all these comments on my video because I talked about what I talked about on Friday, the video I made for it. I haven't responded them because I wanted to be thoughtful, so I wanted him to know that, but he's not here now, so yeah.
I'll tell him. But your video was good. I think there's a lot in there to be said. I'm gonna go look at his comments and check it all out because that was a great idea. Anyhow, all right, guys. Thanks for coming. Thanks for seeing ya. Sartori might start another stream. Go check it out. Daniel, always a pleasure. Birdie and Donkey. All right, that's it, guys. Peace out. Meow meow.
Wonderful to see y'all. Best to